Well, it's a great national loss. I'm personally deeply saddened. He was a man of rare combination of intellect and integrity. Working with him as his cabinet minister, earlier in foreign affairs and later as India's economy minister, was a humbling experience, a learning experience. He was, for me, not just a prime minister. He was my guru. He was a teacher. He was a guide. He was a man of few words, but deeply committed to India, its future. A man of compassion, who felt for the poor, who felt for the unempowered Indians. Don't forget that he came to India after the partition as a refugee. He was a self-made man. He talked less but delivered far more, and history will respect. I am aware of his steely resolve, his strength.
As Prime Minister, I had the privilege personally of hosting prime ministerial visits when I was ambassador in Geneva, later in Brazil, and finally in New York. Again, when I returned to Delhi in between as Secretary Economic Relations. So I must say that Dr. Manmohan Singh's contribution to the country will be remembered in very positive terms. His contribution not only to the economy, but his stewardship at a difficult time, and the loss will be personally felt by all those who came in touch with him. He was a person who gave humility and a sense of professional purpose, an entirely new meaning. And our heartfelt condolences to Gursharan ji and their daughters. And I think that the outpourings of grief which are coming in from different parts of India, these are a testimony to his many qualities of head and heart, of leadership, and he will be long remembered for his contribution.
He was always encouraging. He was always asking me for input. He was always seeking my opinion on what young people think on economic issues, what should we do about certain foreign policy issues. And there was never any feeling of, there was no insecurity in him, in that he was encouraging a young, inexperienced person to give him ideas. So that told me a lot about this man, that he was more of a mentor, a friend, a guide than a leader or anything else. Someone you could access, someone you could talk to, someone you could connect with, someone who sought opinions, and as I said, someone who was extremely accessible. Accessible doesn't just mean in terms of your time. Accessible means in terms of your bandwidth, your ability to share ideas, to brainstorm. And I experienced that, as I said, before I got into politics, when I served as a minister in his government, even afterwards. He always was generous with his time and keen to debate and discuss and seek my ideas rather than share his own ideas or thrust his own ideas upon me. He would always say, what do you think we should do with this? What do you think of this? So a unique man, certainly a gentleman in politics, in this the heat and dust of Indian politics. A very, very unique person who rose all the way to the top purely on his intellect and on his humility. And I think they don't make many like him anymore.
It's a very deeply emotional moment for me. I know he was ill, and I know that he was not active, but I thought he will live for a few more years at least. As I am able to recall the life and work of Dr. Manmohan Singh and the period from 1991 till 2014 will be a golden chapter in the history of India. I worked closely with him for many years. I have not met a person more humble and self-effacing than Dr. Singh. He wore his scholarship lightly and never claimed credit for any of his historic achievements. In fact, the story of India turned after Dr. Manmohan Singh became finance minister. And the present middle class of India was virtually the creation of his policies as finance minister and prime minister. I can recount countless incidents. We had genuine empathy for the poor. And while his policies were liberal and progressive, he never forgot the poor.
I think it's the end of an era. Dr. Singh, in his passing, we've lost a man who was a visionary, and he really led the country in a way that was not thought to be possible back in 91. And as Prime Minister, as Finance Minister, as RBI Governor, his contributions to our policy making, our economy has been immense. And I think this generation owes a lot to the work that Dr. Singh did in his life. And he was a true nationalist. I think he kept nation above everything else. And to my mind, two things that stand out are honesty and humility that he'll be remembered most for.